My wife left after 22 years for another man. My daughter sided with her. I waived all my legal rights in court. Now, my ex-wife is in a panic. My name is Mark Ashton, I am 45 years old, and just a year ago, I was certain I had everything under control. I ran my own landscaping business, which I had built from the ground up. We had a cozy home in the suburbs, a wife I had been with for 22 years, and a daughter who was the meaning of my life. From the outside, it looked like the dream: stability, love, and family. Claire, my wife, was studying journalism when we met. Smart, energetic, with a laugh that could make waiters turn around. I first saw her at the faculty coffee shop. She was fiercely typing on her laptop, oblivious to the world. It took me 3 visits and 1 accidental spilled coffee for her to finally notice me. We were young, maybe too young, but we seemed to know exactly what we wanted. 8 months later, I proposed to her by a fountain on the embankment. The ring cost me 3 months of side jobs, but the look in her eyes was worth it. "Are you sure?" she asked through tears. "Exactly, because we have everything ahead of us. I want to walk this path with you." A year later, Sarah was born. We hadn't planned on children so early, but when Claire told me she was pregnant, it felt right. I still remember holding her for the first time, a tiny creature with Claire's eyes and my stubborn chin. In that moment, I silently promised, "I will give you the world." The first years were tough. I worked 14-hour days, just launching my company. Claire was finishing her degree and staying home with Sarah. We lived in a tiny rental where you could hear the neighbors arguing through the walls. We often ate instant noodles, waiting for a paycheck just to buy diapers. But damn it, we were happy. Going through hardships together brought us closer. We celebrated every little thing: a new client, Claire's first published article, Sarah's first steps across our cluttered living room. "We are building something real," Claire used to say, nestled beside me on our old sofa after Sarah finally fell asleep. "Something that won't fall apart." I believed her implicitly. We were the couple people talked about. See? They made it. I pictured us 40 years from now, sitting on a porch in rocking chairs, surrounded by grandchildren and the smell of homemade pie. By the time Sarah was 16, my business was well known throughout the region. Claire had risen to be the editor of the society section at a major city newspaper. We bought a house, took vacations, and started saving for Sarah's university. We had made it. Or so I thought. Only later did I realize that the foundation we had built everything on had long been cracking. But I didn't hear the sounds. I was too convinced we were the exception. After 2 decades of marriage, you know your partner better than yourself. I noticed Claire loading the dishwasher, not with her usual hurriedness, but methodically, precisely, as if every movement mattered. It was strange. I noticed she started staying late at work 3 times a week. "Big story," she'd toss out, walking past me with her bag as dinner got cold. It coincided with her new assignment, an investigation into municipal corruption. It was all logical, but it didn't feel real. I always relied on my intuition. It saved me in business. If a hillside seemed unstable, I reinforced the structure, even if the client objected. That same intuition screamed at me, "Something is wrong." One evening, after completing a major contract for a new city park, I decided to drive to her office with her favorite Thai noodles. I wanted to surprise her, like in the old days. The newsroom was empty. The security guard, who knew me from corporate parties, nodded me through. The 7th floor was almost deserted. "Mark, I'm not sure she's there." I found her office. Only a desk lamp was glowing in the corner. Through the glass door, I saw Claire. She was on the phone, laughing easily, genuinely, the way she hadn't laughed at home in a long time. My fingers went cold around the bag of food. I could have stormed in, shouted, demanded explanations, but I just stood in the shadows and watched. She was different, alive, and not with me. When she hung up, she lingered on the screen, smiled, and started typing something. I left before she noticed me. I threw the dinner in a trash can outside the building. That night, I lay next to her, listening to her breathe. And for the first time in my life, I felt nothing. No warmth, no comfort, only emptiness. The next morning, while Claire was showering, I did what I swore I never would. I took her phone. Nothing suspicious. No strange calls or messages. Either I was going crazy, or she had become cautious. The answer came 2 days later. Sarah had borrowed my work pickup to move furniture into her dorm. When she returned, she handed me the keys and a receipt. "Dad, what were you doing at the River Hotel on Friday? Weren't you supposed to be on a business trip in Tulsa?" I had been neither in Tulsa nor at the hotel, but my business card had been used to pay for something there. I already knew who. I don't act on emotion. 20 years in business taught me to check the facts before making a decision. I called David, a former police detective whose property I had once landscaped at cost. "Are you sure, Mark?" he asked, as we sat in his car across from the news office. "I need the truth," I ground out. "Once you know, you can't unsee it." The receipt had a number. River, Friday night. I was home then. Claire was supposedly at a conference. Someone was lying. David spent a week on surveillance, then called, "Come here. She's there again." Took a cab, but she's been in the room for an hour. Not alone. I rushed away from a meeting. 20 minutes later, I was at the hotel. "Is that hers?" I asked, pointing to a silver Audi in the parking lot. "No, that's his. She arrived about 40 minutes ago. He's an editor from another city, Alexander Wells. They say they worked together about 20 years ago." The name hit me like a blow. Alexander, the one she spoke of with a faraway look, the one who left for another city just before we met. Enough. I handed David the camera. I didn't want to see anything else. I didn't make a scene, didn't curse. Instead, I booked a session with our marriage counselor, Dr. Miller. I told Claire I was burnt out from the business and needed to talk. She agreed, probably with relief, thinking I hadn't guessed. In the session, the doctor asked, "How are things? Has anything changed?" "We're both busy. It's just a phase," Claire responded, nervously fiddling with her fingers. "Claire," Dr. Miller said gently, "is there anything Mark should know about?" Silence. Then her phone vibrated in her pocket. She glanced at the screen, and something in her face broke. I've been talking to someone. An old acquaintance. Alexander Wells." "He's not just an acquaintance," I said calmly. She looked up sharply. "How do you know?" "It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're lying. You used my card to pay for meetings at a hotel." The doctor tried to intervene, but Claire was already standing. "I'm sorry you found out this way, but maybe it's for the best." Alexander and I started talking again, and I realized he was always the one for me. She stood in the middle of the office, back straight, voice firm. "We were good together, Mark. Cozy, but not right. I tried to love you. I truly did." I listened as 22 years crumbled before my eyes, as everything I considered love suddenly became an attempt. We drove home in silence. There were no words left. At home, Claire immediately began packing openly, cold-bloodedly. "Just like that?" I asked, standing in the bedroom doorway. 22 years, and you just walk away?" She stopped, holding a sweater. "I didn't plan this. Alexander wrote about a job opening at the paper. It started as work, but it ended differently. She looked away. I think I loved him all this time. I was just trying to move on with you, building a good, comfortable life. But seeing him made everything clear. I didn't even know what to say. A hurricane raged inside, but externally, I remained the same. Composed, stubborn, quiet. Don't bother, I said. I'm not going to be your backup plan. I walked out and closed the door. I went into Sarah's room, now a guest room. Everything was as it used to be. Diplomas, debate trophies, old photos. And then, as if on cue, the front door slammed. Mom? Dad! Sarah called out. Why are both cars here? She walked into the hallway and saw us, Claire with the suitcase, me in the shadows. Complete silence. We need to talk, Claire began, sitting on a chair in the foyer. She told our daughter everything about outgrown feelings, about Alexander, about how true love never fades. I expected Sarah to explode, to yell at her mother, but the opposite happened. So, you'll finally be happy, Mom? She asked, holding Claire's hands. I hope so, sweetie. Claire smiled through tears. Then, maybe this is right. My own daughter, the girl I stayed up nights for, built a business for, and forgot myself for, was now comforting her mother for abandoning our family for a former lover. You don't know the whole picture, Sarah, I said dully. I know Mom has been unhappy for years, and you were only focused on work. Maybe you just didn't notice. It was a punch not with words, but with a look of sympathy, regret, and thinly veiled contempt. Are you saying she deserves happiness with someone else? Yes, she answered firmly. Isn't that what matters? Something in me snapped. So be it. You've all decided without me. I grabbed my keys and wallet. You're doing just fine without me. I'm done. I spent 3 nights in an old motel outside the city. Truckers, worn tile, a humming soda machine. It suited my state. Tired, broken, but not yet shattered. On the 4th morning, I returned to the house. Claire was at work. I came not for explanations, but for my belongings, my documents, and the silence. In the home safe, I found an envelope labeled personal. Inside, dozens of letters. 15 years of correspondence between Claire and Alexander. Some men would have burned them. I didn't. I read. The whole history was there, from confessions to tears, from sorry I disappeared to maybe fate is giving us a second chance. The last letter was 6 months old. He wrote that he was divorced. We are free. I didn't tremble. I didn't shout. I simply understood. This was not a spark. It had lasted our entire time together. I hadn't been a husband. I had been a compromise. As I was putting my documents together, Sarah walked into the office. Dad, what are you doing? Collecting everything I need. Mom is worried. You just left. She's been writing love letters to another man for 10 years. Do you think I left without a reason? I handed her the stack of letters. She started reading, confidently at first, then slowly, and then her hands began to shake. But she said it was recent. People lie, even parents. She started to cry. I remember how happy we were. Was none of that real? Or did I just imagine it? That is what betrayal does. It erases the line between truth and illusion. What are you going to do now? The only thing I can. Move forward. But this is your home. It stopped being my home when your mother decided I was a backup plan, and when you decided she was right. But she sobbed. You made your choice. You thought your mom deserved happiness? Well, so do I. I kissed her on the forehead, walked around her, and left. putting the life I had built for over 2 decades behind me. I arrived at the district court on a Tuesday morning. Next to me was my lawyer, Eleanor Vance. A cold building, gray walls, the familiar weight of formality. "Are you absolutely sure?" she asked as we climbed the steps. "A complete waiver of property division." "No claims." "Absolutely. I had built a business for 20 years. I knew when it was time to cut your losses." This was that time. It was over quickly, without hysterics, without shouting, just documents, signatures, and conclusions. As we were leaving, Claire appeared at the entrance, accompanied by her lawyer, an imposing woman with an expensive briefcase. "Mark," Claire said quietly. "It's already filed," I replied. "Maybe we can discuss the terms?" her lawyer intervened. "We are ready for a fair split." "I don't need anything," I interrupted. "The house, the accounts, the savings, she can keep them. I'm taking the business, my personal savings, and what I've already moved out." "You can't be serious." Claire looked bewildered. 22 years ago, you chose me. Now you've chosen someone else. I'm just respecting your choice and leaving the game." We moved to the conference room. 2 pairs of lawyers, a glossy table surface, and several glances, some cold, some tense. Eleanor clearly stated my terms. No disputes, no alimony, no claims. I didn't want to wage war against a woman who had betrayed me, but who had once been close. Just as everything was practically settled, Sarah burst into the room. "Stop!" she cried. "I can't watch this." "How did you know?" Claire asked. "A girl from university told me. Her parents are getting divorced too." I couldn't stand it. I nodded to the lawyers. They left. "This is not your concern, Sarah," I said calmly. "How is it not mine? You're my parents. This is between your mother and me. Everything I'm doing is not out of spite. I am simply refusing to fight over material things with a woman who betrayed me for years." She sobbed. "You're giving away everything you built. Just like that." "I'm not losing anything important. Everything truly dear to me has either already betrayed me or is standing before me in tears, now deciding whose side to take." I stood up. "Today, I lose the status of a husband, but I gain something much more valuable: self-respect." 6 months passed after the divorce. Ashton Landscaping almost doubled its growth. We won 2 major municipal contracts and a landscaping order for an elite subdivision. I moved into a simple but cozy apartment overlooking the river. No photos of Claire, just work, my team, and peace. No revenge, just forward momentum. This continued until Thanksgiving. We don't celebrate it officially, but symbolically it was a day for taking stock. Sarah walked into the office. The secretary said I was free. She looked tired, with circles under her eyes. "I'm working. We have a blueprint for the project on Sunny Shore. Mom's apartment has been sold. She and Alexander are moving to another city. They bought a place there." That was her right. The house is hers now. She didn't even discuss it with me. That was our home. My life is there. I remained silent. It feels like you just took an eraser and wiped everything out. "Do you think it was easy for me?" I opened my desk drawer and took out a small box. This is all I took from my old life. Inside were her first baby tooth, a childhood drawing labeled Dad and Me, a Father's Day card, and a jar of dirt from the backyard where we buried her hamster like a soldier. I didn't walk away from what was important. I simply stopped clinging to the things that had become a lie. She burst into tears. "I was wrong. I found Mom's old journals. She kept them the whole time. The letters, the reflections. She always saw you as the safe choice, the comfort. You deserved better." I sighed. People see what they want to see. She needed to see herself as the victim. And I believed her. "I'm sorry, Dad. Can we try to start over?" I looked at her, and for the first time in a long time, something inside me warmed. "How about dinner? There's a decent steakhouse nearby." It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a foundation. And on a solid foundation, I knew you could build anything. Exactly 1 year passed after that dinner over steaks. What started as one meal became a partnership. Sarah pitched an idea, an ecological division within my company, consulting on sustainable landscaping, smart drainage systems, green roofs. At first, I was skeptical. Then I gave her a chance. 2 years later, her department was working with the largest developers in the region. 3 full-time specialists, dozens of projects. We were opening the Green Valley Eco Center, the first retail park complex with a complete rainwater harvesting system, solar panels, and landscaping designed by her. "I'm proud of you both," said Robert Shaw, an investor and longtime partner. "The City Council already wants to give you the whole riverbank for a redesign." "It's all her doing," I said, pointing to Sarah. "The daughter is smarter than the father." When Robert walked away, a woman approached me. Her face seemed familiar. Helen Sinclair, the new director of urban planning. We had briefly met at a council meeting. "Mark Ashton, nice to meet you." She critically examined the terraces, paths, and hedges. "They say you don't just build with your hands, but you help people grow, too. That's rare." "Sometimes, to start over, you have to level everything to the ground." Helen nodded. "I'm recently divorced myself. Just moved from the West Coast, starting completely fresh." I offered to buy her a coffee, just friendly. A year later, we were living together. 2 years later, we got married. No pomp, no flash. Just 2 adults who had been through their respective storms and chose to trust again. Exactly 5 years after the divorce, I stood in my backyard among family and friends. Lights glowed above us, surrounding the benches, shrubs, and trees I had planted myself. All of this had become my sanctuary. "Speech," Robert called out, raising his glass. I didn't like speaking, but this evening deserved words. 5 years ago, I thought I'd lost everything, but it turns out I was just making room for the new. Just like in landscaping, sometimes you have to pull out the old to plant the living. We grew. We became different. Thank you to everyone who is here. Through the applause, I looked at Sarah. She was standing next to her fiancé, the same guy from college who had once nervously shaken my hand. Now he worked with us, leading sustainable construction projects. And Helen. Helen stood beside me, her ring sparkling in the lights. With her, there was a peace I hadn't had even in my youth. "She would be proud of you," Sarah said later, as we stood by the garden stone wall. "Mom?" I asked, surprised. "No, Grandma. Your mother's mother. She always said you didn't just build with your hands, but with your heart." I felt something clench in my chest. She was a wise woman. By the way, Mom is back. She's teaching journalism at a college. Alexander has completely disappeared from her life. Full divorce. Are you going to meet her? Someday, but not now. Some foundations take time to rebuild. I nodded. Do you know where your home is? Here. She pointed to the house, the garden, and me. We walked back. The last guests were saying goodbye. Helen waved from the porch. I felt something special. Not because everything was perfect, but because I had emerged from the pain and built everything anew with my own hands from a clean slate. The past was in the past. And the main thing, I didn't break. I became different, stronger, deeper, calmer. And that was the best revenge possible. To live a life where I had no regrets.